Chapter 10 Across the Ocean. As Vishibhana noticed Rama standing at the edge of the sea, brooding perhaps on the plans to rescue Sita, he kept himself in the background, not wishing to break in on him at just that moment. Later, however, when the chiefs of Rama's army noticed his presence, they took him to be a spy and treated him roughly. At his Vishama at this, Vishibhana cried aloud, O Rama, I am here to seek asylum. I seek your grace and protection. When the cry reached Rama, he dispatched messengers to fetch the supplicant before him. Hanuman also sent a special messenger to protect the visitor, whom the monkey army thought was Ravana himself in disguise delivered into their hands, and to investigate his antecedents. The messenger questioned Vibhishana and reported back to Rama. Rama thought it over and asked his battle companions one by one what they thought of the visitor. Sugriva said, one who has behaved traitorously to his brother, how can we trust him? I was no friend of mine, brother, but my case was different. I was chased for my life, deprived of my wife, and Valley left me no choice. But in this case, by his own admission, his brother Ravana was kind, but still he has snapped his ties and come here. It looks to me very strange indeed. We cannot admit him in our camp. After all, you are on a mission to wipe out the Asura class, and in spite of his noble speech, this person is really an Asura. The Jabavan came forward to say, you take a risk when we admit anyone from an enemy's camp, and it will be too late when you discover the fact. Ashwaras are well known for their trickeries and disguises. Remember that what appeared to be golden deer turned out to be Maricha. Rama lent a patient hearing to everyone and asked his commander in chief to speak. He said, I have some knowledge of what the books have to say regarding agents, spies, and refugees. Only those who have suffered treachery in the hands of the enemy or any enemy's soldiers who turns his back, unable to fight anymore, or an enemy's neighbor who has lost his home and family, when things come, even if they happen to be kinsmen of our worst enemy. You can admit them and accept their friendship. If we consider Vishibhana's case and analyze the time of his arrival and the circumstances, nothing was done to drive him hither. How can we trust his mere profession of virtue and goodness? We cannot fit him into any categories of refugees defined in our Shwastras. Many others spoke and anonymously declared that Vibhishana should be rejected. Rama looked at Haman and said, you have not said anything. What do you think? Hanuman said, when all your advisors have spoken so very clearly, I hesitate to express my thoughts. Excuse me. But since you give me the privilege, let me assure you that I do not think this man is evil minded. Looking at him, it is very clear to me that he has a clean and pure soul and that his heart is good. I am sure he has come to you through devotion. I have every reason to think he has come with a sense of adoration for you. He has heard of your help to Sugriva. He has heard of your surrender to Bharata. He knows your mind and has come to you because he feels convinced that you could help him and save him from the tyranny of his brother. He did his best to save his brother but failed. When I looked at Lanka and looked about, I had occasion to look into his home. Unlike the homes of others of his family, which are filled with meat and wine and women, his home is that of a man of pity and purity. When Ravana ordered that I should be killed, it was Vishipsana who interceded and persuaded him to spare my life, as I was only an emissary. Sorry, I can't speak today. And that time he had no intention of coming over here. And so it was not a calculated step. He is genuine and he seeks your protection. We should accept him without further thought. After listening to Hanuman, Rama declared, I agree with you. After all, one who seeks asylum must be given protection. Whatever may happen later, it is our first duty to protect, even if I am defeated because I have taken him at his word. I would not mind it. I shall still have done the right thing. On the other hand, I am victorious in war by rejecting him. To me, that victory would not be worth having. One who speaks for himself must be accepted at face value. One who seeks asylum must be protected. One of my ancestors gave his life to protect a dove which sought his protection from a hawk. I have made up my mind, and my friends here, please take note of it. Let him be brought in. He looked at Sugriva and said, You should go and tell him excuse me, that we accept him, welcome him, and bring him here. Very soon Sugriva let Vibhishana to Rama's presence. Rama spoke kind words to him. Vibhishana accepted Rama's friendship and grace and humility. Finally, Rama turned to Lakshmana and said, Treat Vishipana as a ruler of Lanka, and but now in exile, and give him all the comforts he needs and all the honors worthy of a king. Vibhishana explained, It is not my purpose to seek the crown of Lanka, but since you confer it on me, I have to accept it. Believe me, sir, my only purpose in coming here was to be with you and receive your grace. Day by day they conferred, and Vibhishana explained the disposition of Ravana's troops, the nature of his weapons, and the strength of his army, all of which enabled Rama to draw up a precise plan of attack on Lanka. Rama's next phase of operation was to try and cross the seas. He stood on the shore of the ocean, and the more he looked at it, the more desperate he felt as to how he was to cross it with his army. He prayed and fasted for 7 days and summoned the sea and God and ordered, May make way for my armies. The sea god said, I am as much subject to the laws of nature as other elements. What can I do? Whereupon Rama felt angry and threatened to shoot his arrows into the sea so that all the water might evaporate and facilitate his passage. The sea god implored him to desist and not to destroy the sea, and leaving its creatures, and suggested, I will accept and put to the best use whatever is brought to me to bring the sea. Rama's angry mood left him, and he said, So be it. Very soon his monkey army brought him mud, huge rocks, and even pieces of mountains. Men, monkeys, and all animals helped this task. It was said that even the little squirrel rolled pebbles to fill the sea, and the day came when there was a passage created by their combined efforts, and Rama's armies marched across and landed on the soil of Lanka. 11. The Siege of Lanka. Ravana deployed the pick of his divisions to guard the approaches to the capital and appointed his trusted generals and kinsmen in special charge of key places. Gradually, however, his worlds began to shrink. As the fight developed, he lost his associates one by one. No one who went out returned. He tried some devious measures in desperation. He sent spies in garb of Rama's monkey army across to defeat and corrupt some of Rama's staunchest supporters, such as Sugriva, on whom rested the entire burden of the war. He employed sorcerers to disturb the mind of Sita, hoping that if she yielded, Rama would ultimately lose her heart. He ordered a sorcerer to keep a decapitated head resembling Rama's and placed it before Sita as evidence of Rama's defeat. Sita, although shaken at first, very soon recovered her composure and remained unaffected by the spectacle. At length, a messenger from Rama arrived, saying, Rama bids me warn you that your doom is at hand. Even now, it is not too late for you to restore Sita and beg Rama's forgiveness. You have troubled the world too long. You are not fit to continue as king. At our camp, your brother Bishipsana has already been crowned the king of this land, and the world knows all people will be happy under him. Ravana ordered the messenger to be killed instantly, but it was more easily said than done. The messenger being Angada, the son of the mighty valley. When the two Rakshasas came to seize him, he tucked one of them under each arm, rose into the sky, and flung the Rakshasas down. In addition, he kicked and broke off the tower of Ravana's palace and left. Ravana viewed the broken tower with dismay. Rama awaited the return of Angada, and on hearing his report decided that there was no further cause to hope for a change of heart in Ravana, and immediately ordered the assault on Lanka. As the fury of the battle grew, both sides lost sight of the distinction between night and day. The air was filled with cries of fighters, their challenge, cheers, and imprecations. Buildings and trees were torn up, and as one of his spies reported to Ravana, the monkeys were like a sea overrunning Lanka. The end did not seem to be in sight. At one stage of the battle, Rama and Lakshma were attacked by Indra, and the serpent darts employed by him made them swoon onto the battlefield. Indra went back to his father to proclaim that it was all over with Rama and Lakshmana soon. Without a leader, the monkeys would be annihilated. Ravana rejoiced to hear it and cried, Did not I say so? All you fools believed I should surrender, he added. Go and tell Sita that Rama and his brother are no more. Take her high up in Pak Bhimana, my chariot, and show her their bodies on the battlefield. His words were obeyed instantly. Sita, happy to have a chance to glimpse a long lost face, accepted the chance, went up high, and saw her husband lying dead in the field. She broke down. How I wish I had been left alone and not brought to see the spectacle. Ah me, let me be put an end to my life. Trigata One of Ravana's women whispered to her, "Don't lose heart, they are not dead," and she explained why they were in a faint. In due course, the effect of the serpent's darts was neutralized when Garguda, the mighty eagle, the born enemy of all serpents, appeared on the scene. The venomous darts enveloping Rama and Lakshmana scattered at the approach of Garduda, and the brothers were on their feet again. From his palace retreat, Ravana was surprised to hear again the cheers of the enemy hordes. Outside the ramparts, the siege was on again. Ravana still had about him his commander in chief, his son Indra, and 5 or 6 others on whom he felt he could rely on the last instance. He sent them one by one. He felt shattered when news came of the death of the commander in chief. No time to sit back. I will let myself go and destroy this Rama and his horde of monkeys, he said, and got on his chariot and entered the fields. At this encounter, Lakshmana fell down in a faint, and Hanuman hoisted Rama on his shoulders and charged in the direction of Ravana. The main combats were face to face for the first time. At the end of this engagement, Ravana was sorely wounded, his crown was shattered, and his chariot was broken. Helplessly barehanded, he stood before Rama, and Rama said, "You may go now and come back tomorrow with fresh weapons." For the first time in his existence of many years, Ravana faced the humiliation of accepting a concession, and he returned crestfallen to his palace. He ordered that his brother Kambakarna, famous for his deep sleep, should be awakened. He could depend upon him and only him now. It was a mighty task to wake up the Kumbhakarna. A small army had to be engaged. They sounded trumpets and drums at his ears and were ready with enormous quantities of food and drink for him. For when Kumbhakarna awoke from his sleep, his hunger was phenomenal, and he made a meal of whomever he could grab at his beside. They congealed, belaboured, pushed and pulled and shook him with the help of elephants, and at last he opened his eyes and swept his arms about and crushed quite a number among those who had stirred him up. When he had eaten and drunk, he was approached by Ravana's chief minister and told, "My lord, the battle is going badly for us." "Which battle?" he asked, not fully awake. And they had to refresh his memory. Your brother has fought and has been worsted. Our enemies are breaking in. Our fort walls are crumbling. Kumbhakarna was aroused. "Why did not anyone tell me all this before? Well, it is not too late. I will deal with that Rama. His is to come." Thus saying, he strode into Ravana's chamber and said, "Don't worry about anything anymore. I will take care of everything." Ravana spoke with anxiety and defeat in his voice. Kumbhakarna, who had never seen him in this state, said, "You have gone on without heeding anyone's words and brought yourself this pass. You should have fought Rama and acquired Sita. You were led away by mere lust and never cared for anyone's words. This is no time to speak of dead events. I will not forsake you as others have done. I'll bring Rama's head on the platter." Kumbhakarna's entry into the battle created havoc. He destroyed and swallowed hundreds and thousands of monkey warriors and came very near finishing all the off the great Sugriva himself. Rama himself had to take a hand at destroying this demon. He sent the sharpest of his arrows, which cut Kubakarma limb by limb, but he fought fiercely with only inches of his body remaining intact. Finally, Rama severed his head with an arrow. That was the end of Kumbhakarma. I'm going to stop there. We're on page 241.